The alarm bells rang through the Vorthak monitoring station like angry metal birds. Commander Zelthara's 6 eyes widened as she stared at the impossible readings on her screen. Something had just appeared in the Theta 7 sector, and that should not be happening. Check the sensors again, she ordered her crew, her voice tight with worry. The Theta 7 sector was protected by quantum storm barriers that no known ship could cross. These barriers had kept the Empire's most secret research facilities safe for over 300 years. Readings confirmed, Commander, replied her sensor, operator, his scales turning pale with fear. There is definitely a vessel in the restricted zone. Energy signature unknown, design unknown, species unknown. Zelthara felt a chill run down her spine. Unknown meant dangerous. Unknown meant trouble. She had been stationed at this remote outpost for 15 years and had never seen anything like this. Meanwhile, millions of miles away in the cold darkness of space, Captain Daeho Kim stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, feeling quite pleased with himself. The experimental quantum tunnel drive had worked perfectly. They had just traveled further and faster than any human ship had ever gone before. "Status report," Daeho said to his crew, his voice calm and steady. He was a tall man with kind eyes and graying hair at his temples. 20 years in space had taught him to stay cool under pressure. "All systems normal, Captain," replied Chief Engineer Hyunwoo Lee from his station. Hyunwoo was young but brilliant, with quick hands and an even quicker mind. "The quantum drive performed better than expected. We're exactly where we planned to be." Tactical Officer Minji Park looked up from her console, her dark hair tied back in a neat ponytail. She was one of the best tactical minds in the Earth fleet, and right now she looked confused. "Captain, I'm reading some strange energy patterns nearby. Multiple ships, but they're not in our database." Communications Officer So-Young Choi, a cheerful woman who could speak 7 Earth languages, suddenly sat up straight. "Sir, I'm picking up transmissions. They're not human. The computer is trying to translate, but it's having trouble." Navigator Jinwoo Nam, a quiet man who could plot a course through an asteroid field blindfolded, studied his star charts with a frown. "Captain, according to our maps, this area should be empty space, but I'm seeing installations, ships, and what looks like a major shipping route." Daeho felt his stomach drop. They were supposed to be in an empty region of space, testing their new drive far from any populated systems. Instead, they had apparently dropped right into someone else's backyard. "Red alert," he ordered. The bridge lights dimmed and warning sounds echoed through the ship. "All hands to stations. Minji, what are we looking at?" Minji's fingers danced over her controls as she analyzed the readings. "I count 12 ships moving toward us, Captain. They're big, heavily armed, and using technology I don't recognize. Energy weapons, particle shields, and propulsion systems that work on principles I've never seen before." "Are they hostile?" Daeho asked. "Unknown, sir, but they're surrounding us in a classic attack formation." Back on the Vorthak station, Commander Zelthara was dealing with her own problems. The mysterious ship was not responding to their demands for identification. Worse, it seemed to be scanning them with sensors that were far more advanced than anything in the Empire's arsenal. "Send word to Admiral Zorvex," she ordered. "Tell him we have a situation. An unknown vessel has somehow penetrated the quantum barriers. It appears to be of alien origin, and its technology is highly advanced." Her communications officer, a nervous young Vorthak named Helvin, looked up from his station. "Commander, the Admiral wants to know how this is possible. The quantum barriers have never been breached before." "Tell him I don't know," Zelthara replied grimly. But whatever these beings are, they have technology that makes our best science look like children's toys. On the Defiant, the situation was getting more tense by the minute. More alien ships were arriving, and some of them were enormous. The largest was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons and covered in armor that gleamed like dark metal. "Captain," So-young said, her voice excited despite the danger, "I think I'm making progress with their language. It's complex, but the computer is starting to find patterns. Give me a few more minutes and I might be able to establish basic communication." "Work fast," Daeho replied. "Jinwoo, plot us an escape route. I want options if this goes bad." Jinwoo's hands moved quickly over his navigation controls. "Sir, there are 12 possible exit vectors, but they all lead through those energy barriers. I'm not sure our shields can handle that kind of punishment." "What about the quantum drive?" Daeho asked. Hyunwoo shook his head. "It needs 20 minutes. To recharge, Captain. We used a lot of power getting here." Minji suddenly looked up from her station, her eyes wide. "Captain, I think I understand something. Those energy barriers that surround us, they're not natural. They're artificial. Someone built them to keep ships out." "You mean we just broke into their private space?" Daeho asked. "More than that, sir. Based on the energy patterns, I think. This might be their most heavily guarded sector. We didn't just wander into someone's backyard. We broke into their top-secret military base. The alien ships were getting closer now. Daeho could see them on the main screen, strange vessels with flowing curves and surfaces that seemed to shift color in the starlight. They were beautiful, in their own way, but also clearly dangerous. "Captain," So-young said suddenly, "I'm getting a transmission. It's basic, but I think they're demanding that we surrender and prepare to be boarded." Daeho considered his options. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and far from home. But Earth had protocols for first contact situations, even ones this complicated. "Send a response," he ordered. "Tell them we are peaceful explorers from Earth. Tell them we entered their space by accident and mean no harm. Ask for safe passage, back to our own territory." So-young typed quickly, her universal translator working hard to convert human concepts into alien language. "Message sent, Captain." They waited. The alien ships continued to close in, but they hadn't fired yet. That was something, at least. Finally, a response came back. So-young listened to her earpiece, then looked up with a mixture of relief and worry. "They're not going to shoot us, sir. But they're also not letting us go. They want to know how we got past their barriers, what our technology is based on, and where we come from. They're ordering us to shut down our engines and prepare for escort to their command ship." Daeho looked around at his crew. These were good people, the best Earth had to offer. They trusted him to get them home safely. The question was whether cooperation or resistance gave them the better chance. "Sir?" Minji asked quietly. "Orders?" Daeho made his decision. "Power down weapons and engines. Signal our compliance. We're going to find out what these aliens want and hopefully convince them that humans are worth talking to instead of shooting." As the Defiant's engines went quiet and the alien ships moved in to escort them, none of the humans realized they had just made first contact with the most powerful empire in the galaxy. And none of the aliens realized they had just encountered a species that would change everything they thought they knew about intelligence, technology, and civilization itself. The real adventure was just beginning. Admiral Zorvex had seen many strange things in his 40 years of service to the Vorthak Empire, but nothing like this. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, staring at the alien vessel that his fleet had surrounded. The ship was small compared to his massive warships, but there was something about it that made him nervous. The alien craft was sleek and silver, with lines that seemed both functional and artistic. Its hull was smooth metal that reflected the light of distant stars, and strange symbols were painted on its sides. Most disturbing of all, his science officers reported that its quantum signature was completely unlike anything in their databases. How did they get through the barriers? He asked his chief scientist, Dr. Kilmere, for the third time. The elderly scientist's tentacles writhed with frustration. "We don't know, Admiral. The quantum storm barriers should be impossible to cross without our specific navigation codes. Yet they appeared right in the center of the protected zone, as if the barriers didn't exist. Could they have stolen our codes?" "No, sir. Analysis of their entry vector shows they used a completely different method. They seem to have tunneled through quantum space using principles we don't understand." Admiral Zorvex felt a chill. In the Empire's long history, they had always had the most advanced technology. They had conquered dozens of species, partly because their science was superior. The idea that some unknown aliens might have better technology was deeply troubling. The human ship, Captain Daiho Kim, was having his own problems. The alien escort ships were so large that they blocked out the stars, and their weapons were aimed directly at the Defiant. His crew was working frantically to establish better communication while preparing for whatever came next. "Any progress on the translation?" he asked So-Young Choi. So-Young looked up from her communication console, her face bright with excitement despite their dangerous situation. "Yes, sir. Their language is actually quite logical once you understand the patterns. They use mathematical concepts as the base for most of their grammar. It's really quite elegant." "Can you tell them who we are and where we're from?" "I'm trying, Captain, but some human concepts don't translate well. They don't seem to have words for things like democracy or individual rights. And when I mention Earth, they act like I'm talking about something impossible." Minji Park looked up from her tactical station. "Captain, I've been analyzing their ships while we wait. Their technology is definitely advanced, but it's also very different from ours. They seem to focus on raw power and heavy armor, while we emphasize speed and flexibility." "Are we outmatched?" Daiho asked. "In a straight fight? Probably. But our ships are designed differently. We might have advantages they don't expect." Hyunwoo Lee had been busy in the engine room, and now he returned to the bridge with an interesting report. "Captain, I've been studying the quantum barriers that surround this area. I think I understand how they work, and why our drive was able to pass through them." "Explain," Daiho said. "The barriers are designed to stop ships that use conventional faster-than-light drives. But our quantum tunnel drive works on completely different principles. To their barriers, we probably looked like a natural quantum fluctuation, not a ship. At all. So we accidentally found a way around their best defenses?" "Exactly, sir. And I don't think they understand how we did it. This news was both good and bad. Good because it meant humans had some technological advantages. Bad because it meant the aliens would be very interested in learning their secrets." A new transmission came through, and So-Young translated quickly. "Captain, Admiral Zorvex wants to speak with you directly. He's inviting you aboard his flagship for negotiations." "Is it really an invitation?" Daiho asked. "More like a polite order, sir. But he's promised safe conduct for a small diplomatic party." Daiho considered his options. Refusing might be seen as hostile, but accepting meant putting himself at the aliens' mercy. On the other hand, this was exactly the kind of situation. Earth's first contact protocols were designed for I'll go, he decided. Minji, you have command while I'm gone. If something goes wrong, get the ship home and report to Earth Command. Sir, I don't like this, Minji said. We know nothing about these aliens or their intentions. That's exactly why I have to go, Daeho replied. Someone has to take the first step toward understanding. An hour later, Captain Daeho Kim found himself in an alien shuttle, traveling toward the massive Vorthak flagship. With him were Communications Officer So-Young Choi and Science Officer Yuna Han, a quiet woman who specialized in xenobiology. They had agreed to bring only minimal equipment, as a sign of peaceful intentions. The inside of the alien shuttle was strange and beautiful. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal that glowed with soft light, and the seats molded themselves to human bodies in a way that was surprisingly comfortable. Their Vorthak escorts were tall, scaled beings, with multiple eyes and long, flexible limbs. They spoke in musical tones that the universal translator converted into understandable words. Your species is unknown to us, said the escort leader, a being called Veltar. In 3,000 years of galactic exploration, the Empire has never encountered your kind. Where do you come from? A planet called Earth, Yuna answered. It's quite far from here, in a region you probably haven't explored yet. Impossible, Veltar replied. The Empire has mapped every star system within 50,000 light years. There are no inhabited worlds in the regions where such primitive technology should exist. So-Young and Yuna exchanged glances. Primitive? So-Young asked. Your ship is small and lightly armed, Veltar explained. Your crew is tiny by galactic standards. Your technology, while strange, appears to be the work of a young civilization. How do you define advancement? Yuna asked, genuinely. Curious. Size, power, conquest, Veltar said immediately. The strong rule the weak. The advanced dominate the primitive. This is the natural order of the galaxy. Yuna found this perspective fascinating from an anthropological standpoint, but also rather sad. On Earth, we measure advancement differently. We value cooperation, creativity, and the ability to solve problems without violence. Veltar's expression suggested he found this concept amusing but naive. The shuttle docked with the Vorthak flagship, and the humans were escorted through corridors that were both magnificent and intimidating. The ship was indeed the size of a small city, with countless levels and thousands of crew members. Everything was built on a massive scale, as if the builders wanted to impress visitors with their power. Admiral Zorvex was waiting for them in a vast chamber that served as both meeting room and throne room. He was larger than the other Vorthaks, with darker scales and more elaborate decorations on his uniform. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the room like distant thunder. I am Admiral Zorvex, commander of the Empire's 7th Fleet and guardian of the Theta 7 sector, he announced. You have violated our most secure space and demonstrated technology that should not exist. Explain yourselves. Captain Daeho stepped forward, his human military training helping him project calm confidence despite the overwhelming circumstances. I am Captain Daeho Kim of the United Earthship Defiant. We are explorers from a planet called Earth, and we entered your space by accident while testing a new propulsion system. Earth is not in our star charts, Admiral Zorvex said. Your charts may not be as complete as you think, Daeho replied politely. And your propulsion system penetrated barriers that have protected this sector for 3 centuries. We didn't know about the barriers. Our quantum tunnel drive operates on principles that might be different from your technology. Admiral Zorvex studied the humans carefully. They were small compared to Vorthax, with smooth skin instead of scales and only 2 eyes each. Yet they showed no fear, despite being completely outnumbered and surrounded by armed guards. Either they were incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. "These principles," the Admiral said. "Explain them." Yuna stepped forward. As a scientist, she was excited by the opportunity to share knowledge, even in these circumstances. "Our quantum drive creates a temporary tunnel through dimensional space. Instead of traveling through normal space-time, we briefly exist in quantum superposition and emerge at our destination." The Admiral's science officers whispered among themselves in excitement and confusion. Dr. Kilmere approached the humans with obvious curiosity. "This is impossible," he said. "Quantum superposition cannot be maintained at macro scales. The mathematics don't work." "Actually, they do," Yuna replied cheerfully. "You just have to approach the problem from a different angle. Instead of trying to maintain superposition, we use controlled quantum collapse to—" She launched into a detailed explanation that left the alien scientists both amazed and skeptical. The humans, it seemed, had developed solutions to problems that the Empire's greatest minds had considered impossible. As the meeting continued, Admiral Zorvex began to realize that these primitive humans might not be primitive at all. They were different, certainly, but their technology and thinking were unlike anything he had encountered. The question was whether this made them valuable allies or dangerous enemies. The fate of both civilizations might depend on getting that answer.
Right.
The meeting room aboard the Vorthak flagship felt more like a courtroom than a diplomatic chamber. Captain Daeho Kim sat across from Admiral Zorvex, while alien scientists and military officers filled the surrounding seats. The questions had been going on for hours, and they were becoming more intense. "Your species claims to have developed quantum tunnel technology independently," Dr. Kilmere said, his tentacles waving with agitation. "Yet you have no knowledge of the Empire, no contact with galactic civilization, and no understanding of basic spatial politics. How is this possible?" Science Officer Yuna Han answered patiently. "Earth developed in isolation. We had no idea other intelligent species existed until today. Our science grew from our own observations and experiments." "Impossible," declared another Vorthak scientist. "Advanced technology requires the exchange of ideas between multiple civilizations. No single species could develop quantum tunneling alone, and yet we did," Yuna replied with a slight smile. "Sometimes isolation forces creativity. When you can't copy someone else's solution, you have to invent your own." Dr. Kilmere studied the humans with growing fascination. Their physical structure was unlike any known galactic species. They had only 2 eyes, yet their vision seemed excellent. Their brains were smaller than Vorthak brains, yet they demonstrated complex reasoning. Most puzzling of all, they seemed to heal faster than should be possible. Communications Officer So-Young Choi had accidentally cut her hand on a piece of alien equipment earlier, and the Vorthak medical team had been amazed to watch the wound close itself within hours. Dr. Kilmere had requested permission to take biological samples, but Captain Daeho had politely refused. "Your healing rate is abnormal," Dr. Kilmere observed. "Most galactic species require days or weeks to recover from such injuries." "Humans heal quickly," So-Young said. "It's just how we evolved." "Evolved from what?" Dr. Kilmere pressed. Yuna explained Earth's evolutionary history, describing how humans had developed from earlier primates through millions of years of adaptation. The Vorthak scientists listened with growing amazement and concern. "You evolved as persistence hunters," Dr. Kilmere said slowly, "chasing prey across vast distances until it collapsed from exhaustion." "Among other things, yes," Yuna confirmed. "And your species engaged in constant warfare with itself for thousands of years. Unfortunately, that's also true, though we've been working to change that." The Vorthak scientists exchanged worried glances. Most galactic species were peaceful by nature, having evolved as herbivores or social insects. The idea of a species that had evolved as predators and then developed advanced technology was deeply disturbing. Meanwhile, back aboard the Defiant, the remaining crew was dealing with their own problems. Tactical Officer Minji Park now commanded the ship, and she was trying to learn everything she could about their captors without seeming hostile. "Any luck with their computer systems?" she asked Engineer Jiho Shin. Jiho looked up from a collection of alien devices they had been allowed to examine. "It's fascinating, Captain. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also very rigid. Everything is built for maximum power and durability, but there's no flexibility." "What do you mean?" "Look at this communicator," Jiho said, holding up a crystalline device. "It's more powerful than anything we have, but it can only communicate on preset frequencies. Our communicators are weaker, but we can modify them to work on any frequency we need." Chief Engineer Hyunwoo Lee joined the conversation from his position at the main console. "I'm seeing the same thing with their ship designs. Massive power sources, incredibly strong hulls, but no adaptability. It's like they build everything to last forever, but never expect to need changes." "That might be useful to know," Minji said thoughtfully. "Keep studying their equipment, but be careful not to damage anything." Back in the interrogation room, the questions were becoming more personal. Admiral Zorvex leaned forward in his massive chair, his 6 eyes focused intently on Captain Deho. "Your ship carries no slaves," the Admiral observed. "We don't believe in slavery," Deho replied firmly. "Then who performs the manual labor?" "We all do. Every member of the crew has specific duties. But we also help each other when needed." "Even officers perform manual labor?" "Of course. I've cleaned engine parts, cooked meals, and repaired hull damage. A good leader serves his crew as much as they serve him." The Vorthak officers looked scandalized. In their society, rank determined everything. The idea of an admiral performing manual labor was almost incomprehensible. "And your crew follows you willingly?" Admiral Zorvex asked. "Yes, they follow me because they trust me to make good decisions and because they believe in our mission." "Not because you are stronger than them?" "Physical strength has nothing to do with leadership," Deho said. "A good leader leads through wisdom, courage, and the respect of those they command." Dr. Kilmere interrupted with another biological question. "Your species shows remarkable adaptability. Officer Choi learned basic Vorthak language in just a few hours. This should be impossible." So Jung shrugged. "I've always been good with languages. Plus, your language is actually quite logical once you understand the mathematical basis. Most species require months or years to learn galactic languages." "Maybe they're not approaching it the right way," So Jung suggested. "I found that if you think of your language as a form of music with mathematical harmonies, it becomes much easier to understand." This comment caused another stir among the alien scientists. They had never thought of their language in musical terms, despite its inherently melodic structure. Una was fielding her own barrage of questions about human science and philosophy. "You claim that competition drives innovation," Dr. Veldtarn said, "yet you also practice cooperation. How do you resolve this contradiction?" "It's not a contradiction," Una explained. "We compete to be better, but we also cooperate to achieve goals that no individual could accomplish alone. Competition pushes us to improve, but cooperation lets us use that improvement for the benefit of everyone. But if everyone benefits equally, what incentive is there to improve? The satisfaction of solving problems, the joy of discovery, the desire to help others. Not everything is about personal gain. The alien scientists found this concept difficult to understand. In Vorthak society, advancement came through dominance and the accumulation of power. The idea of working for abstract benefits seemed almost alien to them. Hours passed, and the interrogation continued. The humans answered every question honestly, sharing information about Earth's history, science, and culture. They had nothing to hide, and they hoped that openness would lead to friendship rather than conflict. Finally, Admiral Zorvex called for a break. The humans were escorted to a comfortable waiting area while the Vorthak leadership discussed what they had learned. "They are dangerous," declared General Mordak, the fleet's security chief. "A species that evolved as predators, that developed advanced technology through warfare, that values individual initiative over proper hierarchy. They could destabilize the entire empire. They could also revolutionize it," Dr. Kilmere argued. "Their scientific methods, their adaptability, their approach to problem-solving, we could learn much from them." Admiral Zorvex considered both viewpoints. The humans were certainly unique, unlike any species the Empire had encountered. They were also clearly intelligent, and despite their predatory origins, seemed genuinely peaceful in their intentions. But they represented change, and change was always dangerous to established power structures. The question was whether the Empire could afford to embrace that change, or whether it would be safer to eliminate the threat before it could spread. The Admiral's decision would affect not just the humans aboard the Defiant, but the future of galactic civilization itself. And as he weighed his options, he couldn't shake the feeling that these small, strange beings from Earth might be more important than anyone yet realized. In the waiting area, Captain Deho and his officers tried to stay calm while planning for various possibilities. They had done their best to represent humanity well, but they had no idea how the aliens would respond to what they had learned. "Whatever happens," Deho said quietly to his crew, "we've made contact with an advanced galactic civilization. That knowledge alone makes this mission worthwhile. Let's just hope we live long enough to share that knowledge with Earth," So-Young whispered back. Outside, the vast Vorthak fleet continued its patrol of the sector, unaware that their encounter with a small human ship was about to change the course of galactic history forever. The message reached the Empire's capital world of Vorthak Prime in less than 6 hours, transmitted through the quantum communication network that connected every major system in galactic space. Emperor Thanemore received Admiral Zorvex's report while holding court in the Grand Assembly, and the news was so shocking that he immediately dismissed all petitioners and called an emergency session of the High Council. The council chamber was a massive dome that could hold thousands of beings, from dozens of different species, all members of the Empire's vast bureaucratic machine. Today, only the most senior officials were present: the military commanders, the chief scientists, the heads of the various species councils, and the Emperor's closest advisors. Emperor Thanemore was an ancient being, even by Vorthak standards. He had ruled the Empire for over 2 centuries, guiding its expansion across the galaxy and maintaining peace through strength and careful diplomacy. His scaled hide bore the ceremonial scars of his office, and his 6 eyes missed nothing as he surveyed the assembled council. "We have a situation," he announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Admiral Zorvex reports contact with an unknown species calling themselves humans. They have somehow penetrated our most secure sector using technology that our scientists cannot explain." Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembly. Grand Admiral Velkron, the Empire's highest military commander, stood to address the Emperor. "Your Majesty, with respect, this must be some kind of mistake. Our quantum barriers have never been breached. No species in the galaxy possesses technology superior to our own." "That is what we believed," the Emperor replied grimly. "But the evidence suggests otherwise. Dr. Kilmere's preliminary report indicates that these humans have developed solutions to scientific problems that we considered impossible." Chief Science Advisor Helmiron activated a holographic display showing the human ship's specifications as recorded by the fleet's sensors. The assembled council studied the sleek vessel with growing amazement. "The energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases," Helmiron reported. "Their quantum drive operates on principles that our best physicists don't understand. More concerning, their ship's computer systems appear to be more advanced than ours, despite being much smaller." "How is this possible?" demanded Grand Admiral Velkron. "They claim to have developed independently, without contact with galactic civilization," Helmiron continued. "If true, this suggests that our assumption about technological development may be fundamentally flawed." The Emperor's chief advisor, an elderly Vorthak named Zelthara, raised a concern that many were thinking but afraid to voice. "Your Majesty, if one unknown species can develop such technology in isolation, how many others might exist? How many civilizations might we have overlooked?" This question sent a chill through the assembly. The Empire's power was based on the assumption that they controlled the most advanced technology in the galaxy. If that assumption was wrong, everything else might be wrong as well. Meanwhile, far from the political discussions on Vorthak Prime, the human delegation aboard Admiral Zorvex's flagship was experiencing a different kind of revelation. They had been transferred to a research vessel commanded by the Empire's top xenobiologist, Dr. Veltarn, who was eager to study human physiology and psychology. Dr. Veltarn was a tall, thin being with silver scales and an obvious passion for his work. His laboratory was filled with devices that scanned, measured, and analyzed everything about the humans, from their DNA to their brain patterns. "Fascinating," he murmured as he studied the results. "Your species shows adaptations that should be mutually exclusive. High intelligence combined with physical resilience, individual creativity alongside social cooperation, rapid healing paired with extended lifespans." "Is that unusual?" asked Yunahan, who was genuinely enjoying the scientific exchange despite their circumstances. "Extremely unusual. Most species optimize for specific environmental niches. Your species seems to have optimized for adaptability itself." Captain Deho listened to the discussion while keeping a careful eye on his crew. They had been treated well so far, but they were still prisoners, and he didn't want to reveal any information that might endanger Earth. "Dr. Veltarn," he said, "you seem surprised that we developed technology without galactic contact. Is that really so unusual?" The alien scientist paused in his work and considered the question. "Captain Kim, in 3,000 years of expansion, the Empire has encountered over 400 intelligent species. Every one of them developed technology by building on the knowledge of others. Trade, conquest, cultural exchange. This is how science advances. The idea of a species reaching your level of development in complete isolation challenges everything we understand about technological evolution. Maybe isolation forced us to be more creative, So-young suggested. When you can't learn from others, you have to figure things out for yourself. But creativity requires resources, stable society, and time for experimentation. How did your species achieve this while simultaneously engaging in warfare? Actually, the warfare might have helped, Yuna said thoughtfully. Conflict forced us to innovate rapidly. We had to solve problems quickly or face extinction, and when we did solve them, we shared the solutions to gain advantages over our enemies. Dr. Veltarn's scales rippled with amazement. You're suggesting that competition drove cooperation? In a way, yes. We competed fiercely, but we also learned that cooperation within groups gave us advantages over groups that didn't cooperate. This concept was so foreign to galactic thinking that Dr. Veltarn had to sit down and process it. In the Empire, cooperation was enforced from above through hierarchy and law. The idea that it could emerge naturally from competition was revolutionary. Back aboard the Defiant, the remaining crew was making their own discoveries. Minji Park had been placed in command, but she was also serving as chief diplomat with the Vorthak officers who had remained aboard to study the human ship. "Your vessel is remarkably compact," observed Captain Helcor, the Vorthak officer in charge of the study team. "Yet it houses facilities that would require much larger spaces on our ships." Engineer Jiho Shin was happy to explain. "We design for efficiency rather than grandeur. Every space serves multiple purposes, and we use automation to reduce the crew requirements. But who maintains your status displays? Who enforces hierarchy among the crew?" "We don't really have rigid hierarchies," Minji explained. "Everyone has specific duties, but we also share responsibilities based on need and expertise." Captain Helcor found this concept disturbing. "How do you maintain order without clear chains of command?" "Through trust, communication, and shared goals," Minji replied. "Our crew works together because they want to, not because they're forced to." Hyunwoo Lee had been busy in the engine room, and he was making remarkable progress understanding Vorthak technology. "Captain Park," he called, over the intercom, "you need to see this." Minji joined him in the engine compartment, where Hyunwoo had been studying the alien monitoring equipment that the Vorthaks had installed. "I've figured out how their quantum barriers work," he said excitedly. "And I think I know why our drive can penetrate them." "Explain." "Their barriers are designed to stop ships that use conventional faster-than-light drives, which work by warping space-time. But our quantum tunnel drive doesn't warp space at all. We temporarily exist outside normal space-time entirely. So, to their sensors, we just disappeared and reappeared?" "Exactly. And that means our technology might be more advanced than we realized." This news was both exciting and concerning. If human technology was indeed superior to the Empire's, it could make Earth a target for conquest. But it also meant humanity might have something valuable to offer in peaceful exchanges. Back on Vorthak Prime, Emperor Thanemore was reaching similar conclusions. The emergency council session had been going for hours, and the debates were becoming heated. "We should capture this ship and reverse engineer their technology," argued Grand Admiral Velkron. "Such knowledge could maintain our military superiority for another 1,000 years, and risk making enemies of a species we don't understand," countered Chief Diplomat Zarmiran. "These humans appear peaceful so far, but their evolutionary history suggests they could be formidable opponents if provoked. All the more reason to eliminate the threat before it grows," the Admiral insisted. Emperor Thanemore raised a scaled hand for silence. "We are making decisions based on limited information. I want a full delegation sent to study these humans more thoroughly. If they are truly as advanced as they appear, we need to understand both their capabilities and their intentions." "And if they prove hostile?" asked the Grand Admiral. "Then we will respond appropriately," the Emperor replied. "But until then, we will proceed with caution and dignity. The Empire has always been stronger through alliance than through conquest." The Emperor's decision would prove to be one of the most important in the Empire's history. By choosing study over destruction, he opened the door to changes that would transform galactic civilization forever. As news of the human contact spread through the Empire's communication networks, scientists, philosophers, and ordinary citizens began to debate what it might mean. Some saw opportunity, others saw danger, but all recognized that the discovery of an isolated species with 3 days into their journey to the Empire's research facility, disaster struck the Vorthak convoy. The pirates came out of nowhere, emerging from hyperspace in a coordinated attack formation that caught even Admiral Zorvex's experienced fleet off guard. The Ravagers, as they called themselves, were a mixed group of outcasts and criminals from dozens of different species. They had been raiding Empire shipping lanes for months, always staying one step ahead of the military response. Their ships were smaller than the Empire's massive warships, but they were fast, heavily armed, and crewed by beings who had nothing to lose. "All ships, battle stations!" Admiral Zorvex commanded as his fleet moved to engage the attackers. "Protect the research vessel at all costs." The battle erupted across space in brilliant flashes of energy weapons and the deep thunder of heavy artillery. The Empire's ships were powerful, but they were also slow and designed for different kinds of warfare. The pirates darted between them like angry insects, striking quickly and then retreating before the massive weapons could lock onto them. Aboard the research vessel, Dr. Veltarn was frantically securing his equipment while the ship shuddered under enemy fire. Captain Daeho Kim and his crew watched the battle through the observation windows, their military instincts screaming at them to help, even though they were supposed to be prisoners. "Captain," Yunahan said quietly, "our ship is just sitting there while people are dying." Daeho had been thinking the same thing. The Defiant was being protected by a squadron of Vorthak fighters, but those fighters were taking heavy casualties, trying to defend a position instead of engaging in mobile combat. "Dr. Veltarn," Daeho called to the alien scientist, "request permission to speak with Admiral Zorvex." "This is not the time for negotiations, Captain Kim," Dr. Veltarn replied, his scales pale with fear as another explosion rocked the ship. "It's exactly the time," Daeho insisted. "My crew and I are experienced combat officers. We can help." Dr. Veltarn looked at the human captain with surprise. "You would fight alongside us, even though we are holding you prisoner?" "Those pirates are attacking innocent people," Daeho said firmly. "That's all I need to know?" So Young Choi was already working on her communicator, trying to establish contact with the Vorthak flagship. After a few moments, she succeeded in reaching Admiral Zorvex directly. "Admiral, this is Captain Kim. Request permission to assist in the defense of the convoy." The Admiral's voice crackled through the communication system, strained with the pressure of battle. "Captain Kim, your ship is small and lightly armed. You would only add to the casualties." "With respect, sir," I think you're underestimating us. Our ship may be small, but it's designed for exactly this kind of combat." There was a pause as another wave of pirate ships swept through the Vorthak formation, causing significant damage. The Admiral's massive ships were struggling to target the fast-moving attackers. "Very well, Captain Kim. You have permission to engage. Try not to get yourself killed." Within minutes, Captain Deho and his crew were aboard the Defiant, running. Through pre-flight checks with practiced efficiency, Minji Park had remained in command during their absence, and she had been monitoring the battle while making her own preparations. "Status report," Deho said as he took his position in the captain's chair. 12 pirate vessels, all small and fast, Minji reported. "They're using hit-and-run tactics against the Empire ships. The Vorthaks have superior firepower, but they can't land hits on moving targets." "Weapons status?" "All systems ready, Captain. I've made some modifications to our targeting systems using what we learned from the Vorthak technology." "Engine status?" Hyunwoo Lee's voice came from the engineering section. "Quantum drive is fully charged, sir. I've also made some improvements to our maneuvering thrusters." "Communications?" "All channels open," So-Young reported. "I'm tied into the Vorthak battle network." Navigator Jinwoo Nam had been studying the tactical display, and he had good news. "Captain, I've plotted optimal intercept courses for all enemy vessels. Their attack patterns are actually quite predictable." Deho smiled grimly. His crew was ready, and they were about to show the galaxy what human military engineering could accomplish. "Take us out, Mr. Nam. All ahead full." The Defiant launched from its protective position and immediately accelerated to combat speed. The Vorthak escorts struggled to keep up as the human ship moved with an agility that seemed impossible for its size. "First target acquired," Minji announced. "Pirate Raider, bearing 27 Mark IV. Engage." What happened next amazed every observer. The Defiant didn't just attack the pirate ship. It seemed to anticipate its movements. As the Raider tried to dodge, the human vessel performed a series of micro-jumps using its quantum drive, appearing and disappearing around the target like a hunting predator. Weapons Officer Seung Hyun. Oh had been cross-training on the tactical systems, and he put his skills to good use. Instead of trying to destroy the pirate ship outright, he targeted its engines and weapon systems with surgical precision. "Target disabled," he reported. "Moving to next intercept." Admiral Zorvex watched from his flagship in amazement. The small human ship was moving through the battle space like nothing he had ever seen, using micro-quantum jumps to appear wherever it was needed most. The pirates, who had been dominating the fight with their speed advantage, suddenly found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. "How are they doing that?" demanded his tactical officer. "I don't know," the Admiral replied, "but it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." The second pirate ship tried to flee when it saw the Defiant approaching, but Jinwoo Nam had already calculated its escape vector. The human ship appeared directly in its path, forcing it to surrender rather than face destruction. Security Chief Yoonji Lim led a boarding party to secure the disabled pirate vessels, and her methods shocked the watching Vorthak officers. Instead of executing the pirates or enslaving them, the humans provided medical treatment for the wounded and secured the prisoners according to what they called rules of war. "You're treating enemies with medical care?" asked Captain Helcor, who was observing the operation. "They're defeated enemies," Yoonji replied simply. "That makes them prisoners, not targets. We have ethical obligations to treat prisoners humanely." The concept of ethical warfare was so foreign to galactic thinking that Captain Helcor had to contact his superiors for guidance on how to respond. By the time the battle was over, the human ship had disabled or captured 8 of the 12 pirate vessels, while the remaining 4 had fled in panic. Not a single pirate had been killed, though many were wounded, and all were now prisoners. Dr. Taehyun Kang, the Defiant's medical officer, immediately began treating wounded prisoners alongside injured Vorthak crew members. His ability to provide effective medical care to alien physiology amazed the Empire's doctors. "How do you understand our biology well enough to treat our wounded?" asked Dr. Morklin, the convoy's chief medical officer. "Basic principles are the same across most organic life," Taehyun explained as he worked. "Circulation, respiration, neural function, the details vary, but the fundamentals are universal. But you've had no training in alien medicine." "I've had training in adaptive medicine. We learn to work with what we have and figure out the rest as we go." Admiral Zorvex requested a meeting with Captain Daeho immediately after the battle. The 2 officers met aboard the flagship, where the Admiral was still trying to process what he had witnessed. "Captain Kim, I have seen many battles in my career, but nothing like what your ship accomplished today. You defeated experienced pirates, using tactics I don't understand with technology that shouldn't be possible. We were just using our ship's capabilities to their fullest extent, Admiral. Your ship performed maneuvers that our best pilots couldn't replicate. Your crew showed coordination that would take our crews years to develop, and your weapons officer disabled enemy ships without destroying them, which requires precision. Our gunners couldn't match." Daeho shrugged modestly. "We train extensively for combat situations, and our technology gives us certain advantages in speed and maneuverability. But why did you spare the pirates? They are criminals who have killed innocent beings. They were defeated enemies. Once they surrendered, they became our responsibility to treat according to our laws and ethics. Admiral Zorvex found this concept deeply troubling. In his experience, enemies were destroyed or enslaved. The idea of treating them with care and respect suggested either incredible naivety or incredible confidence. Are all human warriors like you and your crew?" "We're fairly typical," Daeho replied. "Human military training emphasizes adaptability, ethical conduct, and the protection of non-combatants." The Admiral realized that he was looking at representatives of a warrior culture that was unlike anything in the galaxy. Humans fought with advanced technology and sophisticated tactics, but they also followed ethical codes that seemed to contradict their predatory nature. As news of the battle spread through the convoy, the human crew found themselves regarded with a mixture of awe and concern. They had demonstrated capabilities that surpassed anything the Empire's military could achieve, yet they had used those capabilities in service of protection rather than conquest. Dr. Veltarn updated his reports with new observations about human psychology and culture. The Specie, the research facility at Kepler Station, was one of the Empire's most advanced scientific installations, a massive structure built inside a hollowed-out asteroid in a system far from inhabited worlds. Dr. Veltarn had brought the human delegation here for more comprehensive study, and what he was discovering was changing everything he thought he knew about intelligence and civilization. "The results are impossible," Dr. Veltarn said to his assembled team of specialists. "Yet they are also undeniable." The conference room was filled with the Empire's top experts in biology, psychology, sociology, and technology. They had been studying the humans for 2 weeks now, and every test revealed new surprises. Dr. Helmiran, the station's chief cognitive specialist, presented her findings first. "Human brain structure is unlike anything we've encountered. They process information using both logical and intuitive pathways simultaneously. Most species rely primarily on one or the other. "What are the implications?" asked Dr. Veltarn. "They can solve problems that would stump our greatest minds, often by combining rational analysis with creative leaps that seem to come from nowhere. It's as if they have two different types of intelligence working together." Science Officer Yuna Han had been participating in these tests willingly, fascinated by the opportunity to learn about alien psychology. "On Earth, we call it left brain and right brain thinking," she explained. "Most humans can use both logical reasoning and creative intuition. Switching between them or combining them is needed." "But how do you avoid cognitive conflicts?" Dr. Helmiran asked. "Logic and intuition often suggest different solutions." "That's what makes us good at problem solving," Yuna replied. "We can consider multiple approaches simultaneously and choose the one that works best for the specific situation." The implications of this were staggering. The Empire's greatest scientific achievements had come from teams of specialists working together, each contributing their particular expertise. The idea that a single mind could combine multiple approaches was revolutionary. Dr. Kilmere, who had been studying human technology, presented equally disturbing findings. Their quantum drive technology is based on mathematical principles that our physicists considered impossible. But they didn't develop these principles through theoretical research. "How did they develop them?" Dr. Veltarn asked. "Through experimentation and intuitive leaps. They built working prototypes before they fully understood why they worked. Then, they used the working models to develop the theory. This approach was completely backwards from standard galactic scientific method, which always developed theory before attempting practical applications. Yet somehow, it had produced technology more advanced than anything in the Empire's arsenal." Captain Daeho Kim had been observing these discussions with interest, and he decided to offer some perspective. "Dr. Kilmere, you seem surprised that we build things before we fully understand them. But that's how most human innovation works. We try things, see what happens, and then figure out why it worked or didn't work. But that approach should lead to countless failures and wasted resources," Dr. Kilmere protested. "It does," Daeho admitted cheerfully. "We fail constantly. But we also learn from every failure, and eventually we succeed at things that seemed impossible." "You celebrate failure?" Dr. Veltarn asked, genuinely confused. "We learn from failure," Yuna corrected. "Every failed experiment teaches us something useful. In human science, there's no such thing as a worthless failure, only insufficient analysis of the results." The alien scientists found this concept deeply disturbing. In their cultures, failure was shameful and often punished. The idea that it could be valuable was almost incomprehensible. Meanwhile, aboard the Defiant, the rest of the human crew was having their own revelations. Engineer Jiho Shin had been working with Vorthak technicians to understand their computer systems, and what he was learning amazed him. "Hyun-woo, you need to see this," he called to Chief Engineer Hyun-woo Lee. Hyun-woo joined Jiho at a workstation where they had been analyzing Vorthak computer architecture. "What did you find?" "Their computers are incredibly powerful, but they're also incredibly rigid. Look at this code structure. Every function is precisely defined. Every variable has exact parameters. Every process follows predetermined paths." "That sounds efficient." "It is efficient, but only for tasks they anticipated. If you need to do something the original programmers didn't plan for, you have to completely rebuild the system." Hyun-woo studied the alien code with growing amazement. No flexibility at all, no adaptive routines, no learning algorithms, no creative problem-solving capabilities. Exactly. It's like they've never heard of artificial intelligence or machine learning. This discovery had important implications. Human-computer technology might be less powerful in raw processing terms, but it was far more adaptable and creative. Human AI systems could learn new tasks, adapt to unexpected situations, and even develop innovative solutions to problems they had never encountered before. Captain Helcor, the Vorthak officer who had been studying the human ship, was equally amazed by what he was learning. "Your computers appear to think," he said to Minji Park. "In a way they do," Minji confirmed. "Our AI systems can analyze situations, consider options, and make decisions based on their programming and learned experience. But how do you control them? How do you ensure they follow orders? We don't control them completely. We give them goals and ethical guidelines, then let them figure out the best way to achieve those goals." Captain Helcor found this terrifying. "What if they decide to disobey you? Then we would analyze why they made that decision and determine whether they were right or wrong. Sometimes AI systems see solutions that humans miss. The idea that artificial intelligences could be partners rather than slaves was completely foreign to Vorthak thinking. Their computers were tools, nothing more. The concept of machine intelligence was so advanced that they had never seriously considered it. Dr. Taehyun Kang was making similar breakthroughs in the medical wing. He had been working with Dr. Morkelin to treat various alien crew members, and his success rate was remarkable. "How do you adapt your technique so quickly?" Dr. Morkelin asked, as they finished treating a Balerian officer with a rare metabolic disorder. "I study the patient, analyze their physiology, and adapt my treatment accordingly," Taehyun explained. "Every being is unique, so every treatment must be unique." "But you have no training in Balerian medicine. I have training in adaptive medicine. The principles are universal. Maintain circulation, support respiration, reduce inflammation, promote healing. The specific techniques vary, but the goals are the same." Dr. Morkelin was amazed. In his medical training, he had learned specific treatments for specific conditions in specific species. The idea of developing new treatments on the spot seemed impossibly dangerous. "What if you make a mistake?" he asked. "Then I learn from it and do better next time." That's how medical knowledge advances. This casual acceptance of risk and learning from error was unlike anything in galactic medical practice. Alien doctors followed established procedures precisely, never deviating from proven treatments. The idea of experimenting with new approaches on living patients was considered unethical. Yet Taehyun's experimental approaches were saving lives that conventional treatments couldn't help. As the days passed, more revelations emerged about human capabilities. Communications Officer So-Young Choi had learned to speak 5 different galactic languages fluently, something that typically took other species years to accomplish. Weapons Officer Seong-Yun Oh had developed new combat tactics by studying alien military doctrine and adapting it with human innovations. Navigator Jin Woo Nam had revolutionized the station's traffic control system by introducing human concepts of predictive routing and adaptive scheduling. Security Chief Yoonji Lim had impressed the station's security force by solving several long-standing personnel conflicts through mediation and communication rather than punishment. Each human seemed to excel at adapting to new situations and finding innovative solutions to problems that had stumped the aliens for years. Dr. Vel Tarn compiled all these observations into a comprehensive report that would fundamentally change how the Empire understood intelligence and civilization. The humans weren't just another advanced species. They represented a completely different approach to existence. Where most galactic species specialized and followed established procedures, humans adapted and innovated. Where others sought stability and predictability, humans embraced change and uncertainty. Where others avoided risk and failure, humans used both as learning opportunities. The question facing the Empire was whether this human approach could be integrated into galactic civilization without destroying the stability that had maintained peace for centuries. Emperor Thanemore received Dr. Veltarn's preliminary report while meeting with his council on Vorthak Prime. The implications were so profound that he immediately called for expanded studies and diplomatic contacts. If these humans can revolutionize our science, our technology, and our thinking, the Emperor said to his advisors, then we must decide whether we want to learn from them or prevent them from changing our civilization. Grand Admiral Velkron still favored the military approach. They are dangerous, Your Majesty. Their way of thinking could undermine... The quantum tunnel signature announced the arrival of 3 more human ships before they even appeared in normal space. Admiral Zorvex watched from his flagship as the vessels materialized near Kepler Station, their sleek forms cutting through space with an elegance that still amazed him after weeks of observation. Ambassador Minhyuk Cho stepped off the lead ship with the confidence of someone used to representing his species in difficult situations. He was older than Captain Daeho, with silver hair and the bearing of a seasoned diplomat, but he shared the same calm determination that seemed common to all humans. Ambassador Cho, Captain Daeho said as they met in the station's main docking bay. Welcome to first contact with the Vorthak Empire. Captain Kim, Minhyuk replied with a smile. Earth Command sends their congratulations on your successful mission, though I don't think anyone expected it to turn into a diplomatic revolution. With the ambassador came a team of specialists that would change everything the Empire thought it knew about human capabilities. Linguistics expert Sumin Kim was a cheerful woman who could analyze and understand new languages with frightening speed. Cultural attaché Dong Yun Park was a thoughtful man who specialized in finding common ground between different societies. And strategic analyst Wanbin Jiang was a quiet individual whose ability to understand complex political situations was already legendary on Earth. Dr. Veltarn greeted the new arrivals with barely contained excitement. Ambassador Cho, your arrival confirms our most important discovery. The humans aboard Captain Kim's ship are not exceptional individuals. They represent the normal capabilities of your species. That's correct, Minhyuk confirmed. Captain Kim and his crew are typical Earth Fleet officers, competent and well-trained, but not unusual by our standards. The implications of this statement sent shockwaves through the assembled Vorthak scientists. If the humans who had amazed them for weeks were merely average representatives of their species, what capabilities did their best individuals possess? Sumin Kim demonstrated the answer within hours of her arrival. Given access to the station's linguistic database, she analyzed 17 different galactic languages and developed a universal translation protocol that was more accurate than anything the Empire had produced in 3 centuries of research. How is this possible? Asked Dr. Helmeran, the Empire's chief linguistics expert. Pattern recognition and adaptive analysis, Sumin explained simply. I look for underlying structures that connect different communication systems, then develop bridges between them based on shared conceptual frameworks. But galactic languages evolved independently across thousands of worlds. There should be no shared structures. There are always shared structures, Sumin said with a smile. All intelligent beings need to communicate about time, space, relationships, and abstract concepts. The specific words and grammar change, but the underlying needs are universal. Dr. Helmeron had spent 50 years studying galactic linguistics, yet this human had surpassed his understanding in a single day. It was both humbling and terrifying. Dongyun Park was making equally impressive progress in cultural analysis. He spent time with representatives from different species aboard the station, learning about their societies, values, and conflicts. Within a week, he had identified solutions to several interspecies disputes that had been ongoing for decades. The Hilarian-Thexian trade conflict could be resolved easily, he reported to Ambassador Minhyuk during one of their daily briefings. Both species want the same thing, profitable trade and cultural respect, but they're approaching negotiations from incompatible frameworks. Explain, Minhyuk said. Hilarians make decisions through group consensus, while Thexians rely on individual authority. When Hilarian negotiators refuse to make binding commitments without consulting their councils, Thexians interpret this as disrespect or deception. When Thexian negotiators make immediate decisions, Hilarians worry that they're not consulting with their own people. So it's a cultural misunderstanding? Exactly. If we establish a negotiation protocol that accommodates both approaches, allowing time for Hilarian consultation while respecting Thexian decision-making authority, both sides could get what they want. Ambassador Minhyuk found it remarkable that a human could understand alien cultural dynamics better than the aliens themselves, but he was beginning to realize that this kind of adaptive analysis was simply how humans approached complex problems. Wanbin. Jiang was making the most disturbing discoveries of all. His analysis of galactic politics revealed patterns that the Empire's own strategists had missed, along with solutions that challenged fundamental assumptions about power and governance. Your Empire is facing a crisis of innovation, he reported to Emperor Thanemore during a secured communication session. Your political structure has created stability, but it has also eliminated the competition and conflict that drive technological and social advancement. Emperor Thanemore listened to this assessment with growing concern. Explain your reasoning. Advancement requires challenge. When societies become too stable, too hierarchical, too predictable, they stop growing. Your empire has achieved remarkable peace and order, but at the cost of dynamism and creativity. Are you suggesting that conflict is beneficial? Not destructive conflict, but productive tension, competition between ideas, debate between different approaches, the freedom to fail and try again. Your system prevents these things in the name of stability. And what do you suggest? Wanbin paused, knowing that his next words could be considered revolutionary. Democratic participation in governance, individual rights that protect dissent and innovation, economic systems that reward creativity and adaptation, educational approaches that encourage questioning rather than memorization. The Emperor's scales darkened with concern. These suggestions contradicted everything the Empire stood for, yet they came from a species that had achieved remarkable advancement through exactly these methods. Such changes could destabilize our entire civilization, the Emperor pointed out. Not implementing them could lead to stagnation and eventual collapse, Wanbin replied respectfully. Human history shows that societies that cannot adapt to changing circumstances eventually fail, regardless of how powerful they once were. These conversations were taking place throughout the Empire as news of human capabilities spread. Scientists, Military officers, philosophers, and ordinary citizens were all grappling with the implications of contact with a species that achieved advancement through methods that contradicted galactic conventional wisdom. On Kepler Station, the cultural exchange was becoming increasingly intense. Yunahan was working with Empire scientists to develop new research methodologies that combined alien computational power with human creativity. The results were breakthroughs in physics, chemistry, and biology that neither species could have achieved alone. Dr. Taehyun Kang had established an integrated medical facility where human and alien doctors worked together to treat patients from dozens of different species. His adaptive treatment protocols, combined with alien medical technology, were producing success rates that amazed everyone involved. Hyunwoo Lee and Jiho Shin had revolutionized the station's engineering systems by introducing human concepts of adaptive maintenance and predictive repair. Instead of following rigid maintenance schedules, the systems now monitored themselves and requested service based on actual need and performance data. But perhaps the most significant changes were happening in the minds of individual aliens who worked with the humans. Captain Helcor had begun questioning the rigid hierarchy of Vorthak military structure after seeing how human crews functioned through cooperation rather than fear. Dr. Morkellen was experimenting with new medical treatments after learning that innovation could be more valuable than following established procedures. Even Dr. Vel Tarn was changing. His research methodology had always been cautious and systematic, but working with humans had taught him the value of bold hypotheses and rapid experimentation. "I am becoming more human in my thinking," he confided to his research team during one of their meetings. "And I find that I am becoming a better scientist as a result." This transformation was not limited to individuals. Entire research teams were adopting human-inspired approaches, leading to advances that would have taken decades using traditional methods. Military units were experimenting with flexible command structures that emphasized initiative and adaptation. Even government departments were beginning to question whether their procedures could be improved. Emperor Thanemore watched these developments with a mixture of fascination and alarm. The humans were changing his empire simply by being themselves, demonstrating alternative approaches to every aspect of civilization. The question was whether these changes would strengthen the empire or destroy it. "The humans represent evolution in action," he said to his council during an emergency session. "They are not just another species. They are what we could become if we embrace change rather than resist it." Grand Admiral Velkron remained skeptical. "They could also represent chaos, Your Majesty. Their way of thinking could undermine everything we have built. Or it could help us build something better," countered Chief Science Advisor Helmaron. "The advances we have achieved in just weeks of cooperation exceed anything we—" 1 year after the first human ship appeared in Vorthak space, Admiral Daeho Kim stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, watching construction crews put the finishing touches on humanity's first permanent installation in galactic space. The massive structure floated in neutral territory between Earth and Empire space, a symbol of cooperation that would have been impossible to imagine when he first met Admiral Zorvex. "It's beautiful," said Admiral Zorvex, joining his human counterpart at the viewing window. The Vorthak officer had requested the transfer to the Joint Command specifically to work with humans, a decision that had raised eyebrows throughout the Empire's military hierarchy. "It represents something important," Daeho agreed. "Proof that different species can accomplish more together than either could alone." Harmony Station was indeed impressive. Human engineering had provided the adaptive systems and innovative design, While Vorthak technology had contributed the massive power sources and advanced materials, the result was a facility that was both functional and elegant, capable of supporting thousands of researchers, diplomats, and cultural exchange participants from dozens of different species. Captain Minji Park approached from the command center, carrying a data pad with the morning reports. She had been promoted to captain of the new UES Pathfinder, humanity's most advanced exploration vessel, but she still served as Daeho's tactical advisor for the joint operations. Admiral, we have confirmation that the Balarian Republic has requested to join the Cultural Exchange Program, she reported. That makes 15 species now participating in integrated research projects. Any problems with the integration process? Daeho asked. Minor cultural adjustments, but nothing serious. Dr. Dongyun Park's protocols are working well. The biggest challenge is keeping up with demand. We have more species wanting to participate than we have facilities to accommodate them. This was a problem Daeho was happy to have. When the exchange program had started 6 months ago, many Empire officials had predicted it would fail within weeks. Instead, it had become so successful that they were building additional facilities throughout neutral space. In the research laboratories, the revolution was even more dramatic. Dr. Yuna Han had established the Interspecies Science Council with representatives from over 20 different civilizations, and their collaborative projects were producing breakthroughs that would have taken centuries using traditional methods. The Quantum Resonance Project is exceeding all expectations, reported Dr. Veltarn during the weekly science briefing. By combining human theoretical flexibility with Vorthak computational power and Hilarion precision engineering, we've developed technology that none of our species could have created independently. Yuna smiled as she reviewed the data. And that's just the beginning. Wait until you see what we're working on with the crystalline entities from the Andromeda sector. Their mineral-based intelligence processes information in ways that complement both organic and artificial intelligence. The medical wing had become equally revolutionary under Dr. Taehyun Kang's leadership. The integrated treatment protocols he had developed were now being used throughout the galaxy, saving lives that traditional medicine couldn't help. We've had a breakthrough with the Thexian nerve plague, Taehyun announced during the medical conference. By combining human adaptive treatment with Balarian neural interface technology and Vorthak regenerative medicine, we've developed a cure that works in 97% of cases. Dr. Morkellen, who had become Taehyun's closest collaborator, added his own observations. More importantly, we've established treatment protocols that can be adapted for similar conditions in other species. The human approach of treating underlying principles rather than specific symptoms is revolutionizing how we understand disease. In the engineering sections, Hyunwoo Lee and Jiho Shin had created something unprecedented in galactic history. Truly, integrated technology that combined the best aspects of multiple species innovations. Their latest project was a new type of starship drive that used human quantum tunneling, Vorthak power generation, and navigational systems developed by the mathematical genius of the Spiral Nebula Collective. The test flights have been incredible, Hyunwoo reported to the Engineering Council. We're achieving faster-than-light speeds that were thought impossible, with energy efficiency that exceeds anything previously developed. And the best part, Jiho added, is that every species contributed something essential. No single civilization could have developed this technology alone. The success of these collaborative projects was having profound effects throughout the galaxy. Species that had been suspicious of each other for centuries were now working together on common goals. Trade disputes were being resolved through communication rather than economic warfare, Even ancient enemies were finding ways to cooperate when they discovered mutual benefits. But perhaps the most significant changes were happening in the realm of governance and society. Strategic analyst Wanbin Zhang had been working with progressive leaders throughout the empire to develop new approaches to administration that emphasized individual initiative while maintaining social stability. The pilot programs have been remarkably successful, he reported to Emperor Thanemore during their monthly consultation. Planets that have implemented democratic participation in local governance show increased innovation, higher productivity, and greater citizen satisfaction. Emperor Thanemore had aged visibly during the year of changes, but his eyes remained sharp and interested. And the stability concerns. Less significant than expected, Your Majesty. When people have a voice in decisions that affect them, they're more likely to support the outcomes, even when they don't get everything they wanted. What about the opposition factions? Grand Admiral Velcron still believes these changes threaten the Empire's foundation. Wanbin chose his words carefully. Some resistance is natural and even healthy, but the planets that have embraced change are thriving, while those that resist are beginning to fall behind in economic and technological development. The choice is becoming clear. The Emperor had been receiving similar reports from throughout his domain. Worlds that had embraced human-inspired innovations were experiencing unprecedented prosperity, while traditional regions were struggling to keep pace. The revolution was happening not through force or decree, but through the simple demonstration that cooperation and adaptation produced better results than hierarchy and tradition. Communications Officer So-Young Choi had established the Galactic Communication Network, which allowed instant translation between any of the 47 languages now connected to the system. This breakthrough had eliminated many conflicts that arose simply from misunderstanding, while enabling cultural exchange on a scale never before imagined. We're seeing the emergence of truly galactic culture, she reported to Ambassador Minhyuki Chawas. Species that couldn't communicate effectively are now sharing art, music, literature, and philosophy. The creative explosion has been amazing. Cultural attaché Dongyun Park had documented thousands of successful conflict resolutions using human-developed mediation techniques. The key insight, he explained to a gathering of diplomatic representatives, is that most conflicts arise from genuine needs and concerns. When you address the underlying issues rather than just the surface disputes, you can usually find solutions that benefit everyone. This approach had resolved trade disputes, territorial conflicts, and even religious differences that had plagued galactic civilization for centuries. The success rate was so high that human mediation techniques were being taught in diplomatic schools throughout the empire. Security Chief Yunji Lim had revolutionized galactic law enforcement by introducing concepts of community policing and restorative justice. Instead of simply punishing criminals, the new approach focused on addressing the conditions that led to crime while helping offenders become productive members of society. Crime rates have dropped by 60% in systems that use integrated security protocols, she reported to the Interspecies Law Enforcement Council. More importantly, recidivism has virtually disappeared. When people have opportunities and support, they rarely choose crime. Navigator Jinwoo Nam had established the Galactic Navigation Consortium, which shared route optimization and safety protocols across all species. The improvements in shipping efficiency and accident prevention had boosted interstellar commerce while making space travel safer for everyone. Weapons Officer Shungyun Oh had taken a different path, working with former enemies to develop non-lethal conflict resolution techniques. His training programs in ethical warfare and defensive tactics were now used by security forces throughout the galaxy. The goal is not to win conflicts, he explained to a group of military trainees, but to resolve them with minimal harm to all parties. True strength lies in protecting others, not in defeating enemies. As Deho stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, watching ships from dozens of different species dock and depart in peaceful cooperation, he reflected on how much had changed since that first accidental encounter in the Theta 7 sector. "Admiral Kim," came a voice behind him. He turned to see Dr. Veltarn approaching, accompanied by a young Vorthak and what appeared to be a human child. "Dr. Veltarn, good to see."